So we're live. Hello, everybody. We're doing another segment on health experts, and today I've got my good friend, colleague, Melissa Jong, and she is a meditation expert. Not only is she a meditation expert, she is also runs a clinic, acupuncture, and you guys do iridology and naturopathy as well, Melissa? Or what do you guys do?
That's the naturopath that works at my clinic that
Okay.
does that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us in the audience, tell us who you are and how you got into meditation. What's the background story behind that?
Actually, like most stories, it is a very interesting one. I think what got me into meditation first was actually practicing yoga. So I've been practicing yoga at that period of time from my early 20s, so for about 10 years. And then I had this, I used to be a designer. So I worked very corporate. I worked in a very specialized field of designing. It was very deadline based. There's a lot of stress. I worked in the city. It was a lot of creative output nonstop every day, very demanding. So I always gravitated to wanting to do something, an activity outside of work. And over the years it would change. And yoga was always one of the consistent things. And there was something about it that really helped me connect back to what I was doing. It made me feel more relaxed. I just enjoyed the breathing. And then it was around there's two things that happened. Like I used to travel a lot as well. So I would find that I would go overseas sometimes for 1 year, like living in China for a year, or travel through Southeast Asia in between working as a design freelancer. So it was a very busy life. And then one time I was quite lost in my life. I was in my 30s and all my friends around me were getting married. They were buying houses, and I felt like I hadn't really quite found my feet. So I ended up in Sri Lanka, and I was in Sri Lanka sort of just backpacking, traveling for a couple of weeks, and I had a life-death situation. It's a really quite a weird experience. There was an experience where I was traveling in a car with two other people where we should have died. It's really kind of a
Oh,
weird
wow.
thing to suggest. Like, it was a nighttime. We were traveling quite late, which is not really ideal in Sri Lanka on some of their roads. And we saw the long distance travel bus. We saw these bright lights, and we heard this car honking, and we should have had a head-on collision because I knew there wasn't much space on either side of the road. A friend of mine was driving, and I was her spotter because it's so dark in Sri Lanka, driving in the night. So I was basically listening to it. Man walking on the road, dog, so she was just wavering between dogs and cats and animals coming on the road. And yeah, we came around this bend, and there was these massive lights. We could hear the bus horn, and there was all this sort of like tense moment where I think I saw my friend sort of scream in the backseat. And then all of a sudden we came out the other side of this, somehow the bus didn't hit us. And we looked at each other and we were like, that should not have happened. Like, we should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are occasions in life where you have to go, okay, well, what was that all about? And so nothing happened. We didn't speak for the rest of the car trip. We just went in very silence, got home, went to bed, and woke up the next morning, and we didn't really talk about it. But after I went to Sri Lanka, I was sort of going on a sabbatical. So I ended up in Burma, so in Myanmar. And this is a place I've always wanted to go. And I was just traveling on my own. And at that time, Myanmar was still opening up. There wasn't a lot of tourists. And it's a very beautiful country. Like, it's a very slow paced country. It's very beautiful. And people would gather and pray in the pagodas. And, that's what they do at sunset. After they finish work, you'd go to the Shwedagon pagoda and you sit there and people would just pray and chat and meditate. And so I found myself quite drawn wherever I was traveling in Myanmar, that I would spend the afternoon. And it was weird because I just remember one day I was taking a lake. I was traveling by boat. I can't remember where I was heading to now. I think I was heading from Mandalay to somewhere. And because there was nothing to do on this really dodgy boat, I was thinking, I don't know if this is safe. Like, if anything happens, it's not going to be safe at all. And I remember just sitting there and just meditating. And I've never really meditated before in my life. I'm not a person that meditates. I'm a person who is always productive, who's always busy. who is always on the go, go, go. So it took a couple of months, and then I did my teacher training to become a yoga teacher. And a huge component of the yoga that I teach, Kundalini yoga, is actually meditation. And it actually took probably another couple of months, 6 months, before I really got into meditation. And what got me into meditation was that I had an injury. So just as I graduated as a yoga teacher, on the day I graduated as a yoga teacher, I also suffered an injury. I tore my ACL in my knee. So that's a ligament in your knee. It's quite a common injury for people who play contact sport like basketball or football. But for me, I was just doing a yoga pose and it just went bang. So the day I graduated as a yoga teacher, I graduated sitting in a chair.
Oh no.
So I was kind of like, okay, well, this is another interesting aspect of my life. This is another challenge I have to go through. And that led me to having to have surgery and have it reattached. And because I wasn't able to do the yoga that I love, which, you know, I'm a very physical person, I'm quite flexible, I really loved stretching, and suddenly I could only sit. So I was like, okay, well, and another interesting thing was I was doing a meditation, a challenging meditation at the time that this injury happened. You know, everything happens for a reason. That's what I learned to believe in. And I took it in my stride. And I remember I had the surgery for the operation, and the doctor gave me painkillers, like really heavy duty painkillers. And I was like, I can't take these painkillers. I'm trying to meditate. I just feel so out of it. So I think pretty much after the second day I was out of hospital, like I was out of hospital within a day, stayed one night. And then the second day I was like, I'm not going to take these painkillers. If anything, I'm going to meditate myself out of pain. So that was another big realization for me too, was that I was able to not take the heavy duty painkillers after surgery. Don't do this at home. This is just for me because I was already a practitioner.
Right.
And I used this meditation that I was doing for 11 minutes to manage what feelings were coming up for me, to feel into the pain. And then I realized that I could actually get myself into a place that I couldn't feel the pain as intensively, and use other methods to help me with the pain that I was experiencing. And then, you know, rehabbing an ACL injury after a surgery takes a while. It takes a couple of months, really. So I decided that I really enjoyed meditation. So I always joke to people, like, I wasn't a person that liked to sit and meditate. Like, I don't know, there are some people who like to sit and meditate. I definitely was not one of those people. I hated sitting still for 3 minutes, but you can train yourself to meditate. And after a while, you get to realize the beauty of what it feels like. Your body starts to crave the sensation of a meditation. So you naturally just want to incorporate it into your life more and more. Yeah.
Wow. That's a crazy story.
It is a crazy story, isn't it?
So for those out there, you don't suggest meditating straight out of surgery at first, but you can build. So you're saying that you can possibly build, anyone can build up to it to where they can not necessarily take away the pain, but feel it less intense. Is that what I'm understanding?
So. I think this all happened about 10 years ago, and I think there is so much research available now compared to when I had that surgery 10 years ago. What has happened now is even Harvard has done a lot of research into yoga, breathing techniques, what happens in a class environment to even veterans who have PTSD. And what they've done, a lot of research has realized there is something that happens within the brain. And nowadays there are even apps that are like curable. I think it's one of them. I've never downloaded it, which is to help people who are suffering from pain, chronic pain, to begin to manage their symptoms without any, with reduced pharmacological intervention. So I think it's definitely possible that anyone, if you do, the mindset is so important, I think. So for me, after surgery, it was like, no, I don't want to be out of my body. I don't like that sensation of being drugged or drowsy. I said, I feel like I can do this. So I feel like if anyone out there feels like they can do that, and they have that mindset and they have that meditation, and it's really to do with breathing as well. breath,
Mm.
it will help your nervous system
Yeah.
in terms of the pain.
Because being in the health industry, we see, especially acupuncturists, we see so much chronic pain. And to be perfectly honest, there's probably only so much we can do. And I think this is a great tool that we can use to give to our patients. That's something as homework, something they can do to improve their quality of lives too. And I think, like you said, like 10 years ago, there wasn't that much research, but now they're like implementing meditation in the schools. They're doing in the army and all sorts of stuff. And I remember I did a research paper back in school, and I found out that even back in the 70s, if you were a doctor and you recommended vitamin C or veggies and exercise, they'd like laugh you out the door. They thought you were crazy. They thought you were like insane. And now it's changed so much. Like even I remember Ariana Huffington, Huffington Post, she recommends meditation as well. So what is the exact mechanism for relationship between pain and meditation? How does that, have you ever looked into how it works or what the mechanism of that is?
I have looked at the research, but I can't really recall
Yeah.
it off the top of my mind in terms of some of the research. I mean, there's a few ways you could look at it too, actually. You could look at it as through the nervous system. So we know that where there is pain, there is a pathway going between the brain, the spinal cord, and to the site of pain. And we know that at times that even at the site of pain, there could be no reason why. There could be the injury could no longer be present, but people still feel that site of pain still firing. So it's almost like the messaging between the brain, the spinal cord, and the site of pain has created a new pathway that keeps firing on and on and on post the injury initially. So what we could look at through that central nervous system too is then we know that the brain is very malleable now. We know that we can alter the gray matter. We can retrain the pathways, or we can get other synapses to fire, and that's through introducing new movement or new patterning to the brain, so that in hope that it will not go down the same pathway. So with meditation, you can look at it in that sense, but we're going to activate through, say if it's the breath, it could be the rhythm of the breath has an effect on the whole nervous system, because you're slowing down your heart rate by taking, it happens automatically by slowing down your breath. Your nervous system starts to realize that it doesn't need to go as fast. You could also look at some of the new research that's coming out with the vagus nerve, which is like a separate nervous system in a way to the autonomic nervous system, because this is a direct pathway between the brain, and it feeds through the sensory organs, the mouth, the tongue, and then comes down through the neck, and then has a direct pathway to the heart, and then even travels through the gut. So we know that when we feel nervous, we feel it in our gut, or if we feel anxious, we feel that contraction happening in our digestive system, and it releases more acid. So in that sense, we're firing off more the sympathetic aspect of I got to run away, I got to get away from danger aspect. The stress response that happens for a lot of people on a day-to-day level. So if we can get into this pathway and alter it consciously by utilizing the breath, because we know that the pathway goes through the mouth already, and there's some breathing where you create like an O shape with your mouth and taking the breath in, then we're activating that system to modulate itself, so that messaging, that signaling becomes a lot more, shifts the signaling, and then over time it's creating a new pattern in the body. So that's one way you could look at the breathing aspect of meditation. But then there's other types of meditation where you're closing your eyes and you may be focusing on a color, or you're focusing on just letting your thoughts go, so the chatter isn't there. One I like to use quite often is even mantra, which is an affirmation. So using sound and using words, and that probably ties more into more psychology based rather than more the nervous system in a sense. And then there's the traditional aspects of explaining how the technology works. Like in the yoga that I practice, they talk a lot about the pituitary gland, which sits like a teardrop from the brain itself, just here. And the pituitary gland has the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe, and they govern the endocrine system in many ways. They send messages to our thyroid and, you know, to our heart and to our kidneys. And the yogis would meditate on the pituitary gland as a way of finding the secret to longevity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you look at the structure even of a skull, so you've got bone structure through here, but the nasal area is actually just cartilage. And then from the roof of your mouth, it's really just hollow, you know, when you take away all the structure. So it's like a chamber is within this face part. So when you use mantra and you chant and you make sounds by using the tip of the tongue and you press on the roof part of the mouth, you're actually creating a resonance.
Oh, like a vibration.
That's right, the vibration.
Oh, wow.
So they're getting this resonance that's going through this chamber of space in your head, and it's almost like the reverberation can potentially have an effect on the blood vessels. We say it has an effect on maybe the sound waves within the brain waves as well. So you can see this is also another mechanism through a different type of style of meditation as well. So we could look at that as well.
So you're saying that it's almost as if our skulls, our bodies were designed to meditate.
Oh, I love that.
Like that's what I'm getting from it, because you're saying it's hollow. It looks like, well, there's got to be hollow for a reason, right? Like, so the pituitary, pineal gland, like it said, oh, wow. I never thought about it. Like, that's fascinating.
And, you know, when you think about how much of our body is actually fluid or liquid, you know, without having to say it's blood or without having to say it's tissue fluid or cellular fluid, you could just see this as just liquid in our body. And you can see that there's Masaru Emoto, who is famous in Japanese.
Yes, the water study.
That's right, studied vibrations of water and the crystals through words and what would happen to that cell or that structure. So then we're talking about sound here as well, and the words of affirmation moving in through the structures. And then you get to see this very multi-layered effect of how it can really affect our body.
Yeah, I think for anyone out there that's interested in quantum physics as well, like definitely look up the water study. What was it? What was it called again? The Matsumoto water study, where he put plants or water, and he said he said really positive things to one glass of water, and then another glass he was like, oh, you're ugly, and then that glass of water it turned brown, like, and they came from the same tap. Like it's insane. Like,
exactly.
So what would you say for a person getting into meditation or just starting? Would you recommend Calm app or Curable app? Because I've tried meditation as well. And it was a huge part of our training in China as well, Qigong and meditation. And I found it was so easy to pick up back then. But this was a business, 2 kids, and a marriage ago. So now when I tried, it's it's like within 30 seconds, like, I gotta check my phone. I gotta do that. Like, how do you calm that kind of like that monkey mind?
Yeah,
where would you start?
I would just start. That's it.
Okay.
I think it's just starting whatever you have. Like, I don't think there is a magical path. I don't think there's a magical path to it. I think I was lucky because I fell into a style that I really liked and worked for me. And I think if people have tried meditation, I get this often. My patient goes, oh yeah, I tried that. It didn't really work. And it didn't work, like we say with acupuncture, is because it's to do with the dosage. You know, you do need to set up a practice. And I would love to say a daily practice. And it doesn't have to be 10 minutes, even 3 minutes. There are so much free resources on the internet. You can just go through YouTube and just do a different one every day if you wanted to. But the idea is that you find the time, you make the time, you schedule the time. And what you said before about even after 30 seconds, you want to check your phone. Hey, I still do that. I've been meditating for like 10 years. I still have days when I have urges when I can't sit there. I'll sit sometimes on the couch and go, okay, I'm going to scroll through Facebook and then I'm going to meditate. And then 20 minutes later, it's like, oh, I haven't meditated now. And then I'll say, oh, well, I've got to do it anyway. So I'll just put the timer on and just meditate. And then you just do it because it's a habit. Like it's like you want to get to a
Retrain
state
the
where
brain.
it becomes, yeah, like it's gonna be like, I don't want to leave the house without brushing my teeth. That kind of feeling. So it'd be like, I don't want to leave the house unless I've done my meditation today. And one of the
And
things I did like, yes, go
oh,
on.
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go.
Oh, actually,
And
I remember now. You've got some videos on YouTube as well.
yes, I have started making some videos on YouTube to share with some students, yoga students of mine, and also for my patients in my clinic. Because at this time, I realized in my community with the pandemic that there was a lot of anxiety. A lot of people were in that state of fear. And when you go into that state of fear and that state of uncertainty and that state of shock, you have to be really careful, because you can collectively, there's so many of us, it can have a very strong imprint into our life, and it could create almost like a traumatic experience for some people, or it can trigger a traumatic experience for people because of the intensity, that the emotions that people felt from what has been happening with this pandemic. So I was very inspired to very quickly try and put some meditations out there so people could just do it, just try and stop their anxiety.
Yeah, I'll make sure to link it up below as well if anyone's interested. So I'm sure people
Yes,
are.
please.
Yeah. And do you have one, or are you going to make one for meditation for beginners as well? Like something like a short, I don't know, 3-minute thing or a 5-minute thing?
Yes, I will do. Because I
Oh,
believe that you
awesome.
can definitely do a meditation for 3 minutes. Definitely in 3
Awesome.
minutes, you can do a meditation, and it can just shift you so quickly. Like 3 minutes is doable, very
Awesome.
doable for a lot of people. You know, and you don't have to be sitting. I think a lot of people feel that they have to set up a special space in their home, or I often just sit on the couch or sit on my bed. You don't have to sit on the floor. You don't have to have a quiet corner. I want to get to a point where people can maybe like, oh, I'm just waiting to pick up the kids from school. I've got a couple of minutes. I could either go on Facebook, or I can just sit in my car for 3 minutes. And
That's
just do this.
true. Yeah, just set the timer. Yeah, that's something that I never even thought about. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So,
But yes,
I think, I think we'll wrap it up, but this has been so fascinating. I'd love to do this again sometime, actually.
yes.
Yeah.
I love
So for people interested in you and what you do, what is the best place to find you on the internet?
The best place to find me, if you're interested in the yoga that I teach and meditations, it'll be on my YouTube channel, which is Wellness Centre Proserpine. That's the name of the clinic I have here in North Queensland in Australia. And if you want to stay up to date with what I offer in terms of acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine, and sometimes I like to share some musings about what's going on in the world, in our little community, you can find me on Facebook on our business page, Wellness Centre Proserpine, as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. That was, we should totally do this again sometime. All right, guys, make sure to check Melissa out. All right, thanks again, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right.